If the release of the Epstein files is making you feel scared, angry, or helpless, that reaction might be the very reason they released these files in the first place. Hi, my name is Abby. Welcome into my channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know that the energy lately has been really heavy. My own body has felt really heavy lately. And I can only imagine how people who are new to this information are feeling. This is something that I learned was happening in our world in 2020 when I had the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And it was extremely unsettling, but also not surprising to learn about. But now that there is factual evidence in our reality proving that it's not just conspiracy, it's not just people who are making up things about our world or our governments or the people that everyone idolizes. It's happening. It kind of shifts the energy, it shifts the feelings around it to I didn't want to be right about that. When I learned about it, I had nobody to talk to because it was considered conspiracy, because people could not even wrap their head around that being a truth. So it was easier to deny, push away, and ignore what seemed so evil, what seemed so far out there. And now it's right in our face, literally right in our face, that it's been happening all along. So if you're just waking up to this, I have deep empathy for the way that you're feeling right now. It's extremely overwhelming, especially now, like I said, that the proof is out there. And I don't want to make another video on the internet where it's dissecting the files, because I think there's plenty of those out there. I think now that the files are public and everyone can look into it, there's enough of that. There's enough of seeing the proof. We know now. So if you've been consuming a lot of that content, I do welcome you into this video, because this is going to be a very different approach to everything that we've seen and everything that's going on. I want to shed some light, and I also want to answer the question, what do we do now that we have understandings, now that we have more proof, now that we've been awakened? What the heck do we do with this information? Because that's really what everyone wants to know. So the very first place that I'm going to take this, and I do have notes, so if you see me looking down, that is why. But this weekend I had watched a kids movie called Smallfoot. And the storyline of this movie is really, really good. I'm not going to do any spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it. I highly recommend you watch it. It's very relevant for the world that we actually live in. So a preview, the movie is about a group of Yetis who live on top of a mountain, and they can't see anything below it because there's a giant cloud. And they have these rules that are literally set in stone that are there to keep them safe and to keep them from questioning. It's just, this is the way things are. And as I'm watching this movie and the songs are coming up, I'm saying, wow, this is really interesting and really good to be in a movie. So I'm going to read some of the lyrics for you. This one song is called Perfection, and the lyrics go, "If there's a question causing you to go astray, just stuff it down inside until it goes away." Because if you question things, if you start to see something, that puts a crack in reality. That ruins the facade, this picture that's painted. If you start questioning, does our government have our best interest? Is it full of shady people who are doing satanic rituals? that causes you to be dangerous.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Because you are removing yourself from the way that everybody else goes in life, the things everybody else believes, the plan that these elites have in place for everybody else. You're walking on the path less traveled. And the second lyric is from a song called Let It Lie. Every job and every task is pointless as it seems. All of it ensures that this important machine keeps turning and turning and spinning around. So those below don't look up, and those above don't look down. And they'll look, because even if they hear of these atrocities, the only thing stronger than fear is curiosity. And they want you to be afraid. That we'll get into is something that this ancient bloodline, this group of people need, is your fear, is your anger. And as soon as you step out of that into curiosity, they've lost their hold on you. So now that these files have come out, I want us more to focus on the hold that they have lost on us. And we're going to get into why coming up. So the release of these files has me questioning a lot of things, because everything that this ancient bloodline does is extremely calculated, controlled, and for a specific purpose. And they have their hands in everything. If you watch any of these videos or you go through the files on your own and you look up the list of the people that are going and doing these things, their hands are in everything. Healthcare, entertainment, political, the drug and food industry, like everything. They have their hand in everything. So why are they releasing the files now? Truly, why is it for the public? Why was some of it redacted? Now some of it's not. Now some of it is that wasn't. Why? You have to ask, instead of feeding into what they want you to feed into. And a few things are happening because of this. So I just want us all to be consciously aware of what the consumption of this kind of content surrounding the files or going through the files ourselves does to us. That can create PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Even though you were not directly involved in this, reading stuff that is like so heinous and horrible and horrific is going to like break your psyche, because you can't even fathom these awful things being done to the innocent. The fact that we live in a world that contains so much evil that's been right under our noses and we haven't paid attention to is going to do something to us. And something else that it's doing is dissociation. So when you see these horrible things and the videos and the emails and the pictures, it's going to cause you, as a protective response, as a survival mechanism, to dissociate, to numb out, essentially, because it's so traumatic, because it's so dark, because it's so far from our nature of beings of love and light, and kindness and generosity and compassion and empathy. It's so far from our nature that when we are experiencing even secondhand these awful things, we don't want to feel that. It's too much for our physical bodies. So we're going to push back, or we're going to pull out of our bodies, and we're just going to go numb for a little bit. And that is not good. The next thing I wrote down was, this is actually a psychological tactic called information saturation. So the way that they released these files is not by accident either. That's a lot of information to be dumping on the public. And that is because it is to manage elite reputation and curate a controlled scandal. And when you're hearing this, when you're seeing this, it makes sense that they would only release half, but also so much at the same time, because it's essentially a needle in a haystack, also breadcrumbing, because they're giving the people what they asked for. We wanted these files. We wanted that name. We wanted to know who was involved in this. So they're giving you a bunch of information for you to sort through and make your own conclusions, because they are not doing their job. But from that, you only get a little piece. It's the breadcrumb. You get the files, but where is the penalization? Where is the justice? And this is also something that I read about from David Icke, which is the problem, reaction, solution. And this is really difficult because a lot of the times the problem is something that is curated. And so here we have a problem of the evils that are happening with a very elite group. And now the public is having an extremely strong reaction, rightfully so, because this stuff is awful. And then there's going to be a solution at some point. But my worry is that because we are so emotional about this, that the solution is going to be something that these powerful people wanted in the first place. But now, because we're emotional and we're involved, we're going to make a rash decision on a solution, something that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise agreed with, because we want that justice. And so, I don't want to spread any fear or anything in this message, but I just want to say, a lot of people are asking for certain things and asking for justice and for more people to be investigated. And I think, that could open a dangerous window of us all being monitored, more so than we already are. And so the risk of privacy could potentially be dissolving. And I think we saw a really good preview of this in 2020 with everything that was happening in that year and the years to follow, of people being emotional, people being scared, people being angry. There's huge division. And at the end of the day, we all wanted to be healthy and we wanted to be safe. And that came with an abuse of power. That came with some things that maybe otherwise in a normal and conscious level, we wouldn't have decided to do some of the things that we did. So now I just want to show some clips of some people who have been talking about this for decades, you guys. This is not something that is new. One of the clips that I'm going to show is of David Icke. He's been talking about the evils of this world for at least 30 years. He's a known conspiracy theorist. That's what he's labeled as. So these people are trying to tell us.
It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah. I was surrounded by them.
And particularly the trafficking of children.
These satanic rituals that these people are involved in today, like human sacrifice rituals, the ritual sacrifice of kids.
1,000-year-old families, Medici. Under that, you have the Vatican, the Pope. Under that, you have the financial groups that control all your shit. BlackRock, Vanguard. After that, you have Putin. You have Trump. You have all this shit. And after that, you got what all this shit is. Entertainment. Hollywood.
Some of these people were ostracized from society. Some of these people lost their jobs. Some of them were discredited publicly. Some of them were shadow banned and couldn't even use platforms to speak. And some people were permanently silenced. So this isn't something small. And my next point is, why is no one in jail? So why has no one been punished aside from Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? It's because these people are puppets. You have to understand that. If there's anything that you take away from all of this, is that these people are replaceable. They're not the top. This goes much deeper and much higher than Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in prison, and Jeffrey Epstein, who's dead. It goes much further than that. And when there are puppets who are now gone, those puppets can be replaced because they have a master. And who is that master? I really don't know. You guys, this is something that is hard for the human brain to wrap itself around, because at the end of the day, I only know what I feel in my body is truth. And a lot of the times, we're getting wrapped up in labels when we're all talking about the same thing. Is it the elites? Is it the 1%? Is it the Illuminati? Is it the cabal? Is it the reptilians? Is it Satan? I don't know. Honestly, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same group doing evil things. What we're fighting doesn't matter the label. It matters the energy, and the energy is evil. So I want to read to you right now just a part in David Icke's book, The Biggest Secret. I'm reading it right now, and honestly, you guys, it's a little bit hard to read because there's so much history in it, but it's extremely fascinating. And as someone who grew up Christian, there's a lot of information in here that is making me question. And like we talked about earlier, when you start becoming curious, you become dangerous. So I'm reading this book, and whether you believe that these evil people in control of our world are reptilian or not, this part that I'm going to read to you is relevant no matter who we're talking about here. So David says, the common theme of all research into the reptilians is that they are emotionless and without sentiment. And at the fourth dimensional level, they feed off the energy of low vibrational human emotions like fear, guilt, and aggression. When we emit such emotions, their energy can't be seen in this world because it resonates to the lower fourth dimensional frequency, and there it is absorbed by the reptilians. The more of these emotions that can be stimulated, the more energy the reptilians have to work with. Thus, we have the encouragement of wars, human genocide, the mass slaughter of animals, sexual perversions, which create highly charged negative energy, and black magic ritual. So whether it's demons, Satan, reptilians, or just really sick and twisted human beings, energy is energy. And if they're feeding off of our reactions to the release of these files, not only are they still going to be doing this to children, because it's not stopping because they put 2 people away. So they're doing that for energy and for ritualistic purposes, but they're also gaining our energy by the emotions that we're feeling in our bodies. So I don't think a lot of people are going to want to hear my advice from how to go from here, because it's not quick. People want bloodshed. People want the death penalty reinstated. People want people dead. They want what was done to those victims to be done to the perpetrators. And I understand wanting justice, but you can't fight evil with evil. And if you're going to come at this aggressively, if what I just read to you was true, you're still feeding them. You're still giving them what they want. So what do? We take the long approach. We take the permanent approach, because no matter what happens, even if every single person on that list was obliterated off the planet, there are people that are not on that list, that will never be mentioned in a list, that are still running society, that will continue to take over and continue to do these things. So we play end game. And what we need to do is we need to heal ourselves. And yes, I know that sounds silly when we're talking about justice for victims, but our healing heals more than just ourselves. And, you know, when we're talking about energy, I know that a lot of people like kind of turn their ears off. Their like listening ears just power down, because it seems woo-woo. It seems wishy-washy. It doesn't seem factual, but you guys, look at what we're dealing with. This is a war not in the flesh, but in the spiritual. And the best thing you can do is work on yourself. Everything that's happened has happened in the shadows, in the darkness, behind closed doors, behind closed curtains, in parties we weren't invited to. And every single one of us has a shadow aspect as well. We have parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at. We have things that we've done in our past that we don't want to admit. And when we can start shining our own light on that, that's what changes this world. And truly what I think has made these files come out in the first place, because so many of us are doing inner work. As within, so without. It has to happen. So maybe the release of these files is to build a bigger army of us. My microphone died. So the next thing that I think is really important that we do is live. These victims didn't have a choice. Whether they were unalived or not, their life will never be the same. They were living in survival. They were trying to survive. They weren't understanding what was happening to them. And if they lived, it's going to take years of work for them to try to have a normal life. You know, and it's so hard to talk about this stuff because it's so heavy, and you never want to be insensitive, because the internet is really quick to rip people apart. Even though these files are horrible, and even though they are affecting us, we still have the ability to unplug from it and go and try to find joy and peace and love and good. And I think, honestly, it's the best way to honor the victims is by truly living our lives. And by being present, you know, that's the best way that you can live your life. Because even if your life isn't great, when you're present with it, that's when you can start noticing how you feel in your body. And that's when you can start making different choices. And that was something that was stripped from these victims, was their choice. So Another thing that I think is really important is having a very strong family unit. So a lot of these victims came from broken homes, came from very dark and unhealed people who had, ill intent, selling their children, giving them away, not caring what happens to them. I truly believe that this is spiritual warfare, and I know that the devil attacks families. If everything that I've learned is darkness will always attack families, please ignore the garbage bag floating off my roof. The devil attacks families, and when he can cause a broken home, it's a weak home. It's a home where the innocent are less paid attention to and easier to manipulate. And so if you have a family, my best advice is to strengthen it to the best of your ability. And if you don't have a family, I encourage you to heal yourself so that you will attract a partner who has similar beliefs and values and goals and, I guess, healing towards having a different kind of family. A family that knows how to maneuver through this difficult human life, and also to be teaching your children about the evils of this world. It is your job to protect them, but that doesn't mean keeping them uninformed, because they need to know about predators in the family, predators in the friend group, predators outside, predators in positions of power, that they can come from anybody around them. A lot of SA victims were abused by family. And so that is where this healing comes into play, you guys, because if you are healing yourself, the chances of you aligning with a predatory style human being is so much lower. You don't resonate on the same frequency. So you're not going to partner with somebody who could potentially harm your children later. And teaching our children how to fight back, because even if they got into a position with somebody and their fighting back would cause them to be unalived, that is better than anything that they could endure. So fight and fight like hell, and that should be taught. Awareness. How do you feel in your body? Where do people not have access to you? Giving them parents who are safe to speak to say, Mommy, Daddy, Auntie, Uncle, this happened to me and it scared me and I want somebody to know about it. And it's so important to be critically thinking, because if you are not questioning things, you're so much easier to be controlled. And that is what we're seeing a lot playing out here, is the programming in people. They don't want to believe that this is the world that we live in. They don't want to even think that there is such evil. And that's the problem, because now it's truly in your face. So what are you going to do? I'm going to learn about the way I feel in my body. I'm going to learn about what feels like truth to me. I'm going to learn about what doesn't feel good and what does feel good. I'm going to learn that my emotions are not in control of me, but I am in control of them. I'm going to understand that when I feel something, I'm allowed to feel that, but I'm not allowed to hold on to it. That it's an energy that is just moving through me. And that when I run up against things that don't feel right to me, I'm allowed to question it. And this is going to be really important moving forward, because AI is so advanced. Please, please develop your gift of discernment. What they're going to be able to do, and what they've probably already been doing, is manipulating things that we're seeing. So you're going to have to know in your body what feels like truth and what doesn't. Are they framing somebody? Is that a real video? How does this feel in my body? And I know it's hard to play the long game. It feels like that shouldn't be the answer. You know, it feels like there must be another way. But I promise you guys, this is the way. Because a beautiful world where this doesn't happen will not come overnight. Will not come if we still have our own darkness within us. Will not come if we're still operating out of low vibrational energies like fear and aggression and shame and guilt. So I want to encourage you guys to stay curious, but don't let it consume you. You're allowed to take a break from this. You're allowed to set it down. It's so heavy, you guys. It's so heavy. And when it feels like it's swallowing you, it's probably because it is. So put the phone down. Be present. Go within. It's not the easy route. But when has anything that's been worth it ever been easy? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Honestly, like, I don't say that because this is my channel. I say that because this information and this approach is so important moving forward, and I hope it reaches as many ears as it can, but I'm glad it reached yours. And as always, welcome to the Holy Shift.